Warning, this episode contains massive, major spoilers, including Mastermind reveals for the following games. In the Ace Attorney series, Ace Attorney 1, Ace Attorney 2, Justice for All, Ace Attorney 3, Trials and Tribulations, and Ace Attorney 4, Apollo Justice. In the Danganronpa series, Danganronpa 1, Danganronpa 2, and Danganronpa V3. In the Zero Escape series, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, Virtue's Last Reward, and Zero Time Dilemma. And in the the Somnium Files series, AI1 and AI2, the Nirvana Initiative. While each section generally focuses on a single series, said section can include major spoilers from the other series mentioned above. Thus, if you haven't played all of the games above, please do not watch any part of this video. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone! Welcome back to a very special video. We are on the second installment of our mystery podcast. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy you all received the first installment very well, and I'm so happy to be able to continue these. Of course, I am joined by Z's, as always. How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing very, very well. Happy to be recording another one of these little discussion podcast type things where we talk about mystery games, why we love them, different things about why we love them. I'm glad the first one went well, so I'm glad to be back for a second installment.
Yeah, for sure. I was super scared because YouTube definitely punishes you for trying to do something different, but honestly, I was surprised by the overlap in interest, which I was super happy about. And yeah, always love talking what makes mystery games, or what we like about mystery games. And specifically for this installment, we're going to be talking about masterminds and villains. And so if you haven't heeded the spoiler warnings at the beginning of this video that I will edit it in post, now's the final chance to turn this video off and, get going on playing the games I listed in the beginning. Yeah, there's not really a way to
I can't wait for the entire intro to just be spoilers for giant list of games. Okay, I guess I have to go play 10,000 games now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, rip all the free time while people are playing the Elden Ring DLC. Your homework will be playing all these mystery games that we have listed out just for
exactly.
This podcast. But yeah, I guess we can get into it now that hopefully all the people have disappeared that don't want to get spoiled. So yeah, masterminds, villains. Honestly, I would say that they are a huge part in what makes mystery games and just mystery stories in general click and work, because obviously the mystery is trying to find the person that is ultimately responsible, how they did it, why they did it, etc. Wouldn't you say?
For sure, yeah. I guess when it comes to the games that we have on the list here, we talk about masterminds, villains, and there's usually one villain that is the final boss you could consider when it comes to a mastermind. It depends on the game that you're playing, but for something like Ace Attorney, you have individual cases that have smaller villains, but then you have the final case, which is usually the big one, where there's a mastermind that is usually sometimes connected to some of the previous cases. But in the case of something like Zero Escape, you have one mastermind in charge of everything, and it's cool. It's cool how each mystery unravels and how each game does it differently.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how you mentioned that in Ace Attorney, there is that big villain at the end that may or may not be connected to the previous cases. I guess this is officially going to spoilers, but the thing I really, really liked about Ace Attorney 3 is that the villain, Dahlia Hawthorne, is very, very present throughout the entire game, right? You have the first case where obviously she's there. You have the fourth case, and then you have the fifth case, and it's just all building up to something that is truly, truly memorable. And I really like it when they're able to tie the entire game together in something like that.
Right. Yeah. I love Dahlia Hawthorne as the case of a villain because of how closely knit she is into like Phoenix's character. Because that is, I think, like Shu Takumi, the creator or the writer of Ace Attorney, I think he intended for Ace Attorney 3 Trials and Tribulations to be the final game in the series, or at least the final game that Phoenix Wright would be a character in. You would move on to like a different type of thing, but obviously that wasn't the case. But I love how Dahlia Hawthorne was so present in Phoenix's like early adulthood, and then seeing like the differences between like where he was and where he is now, thanks to the help of Mia Fey. It's so cool to just see the growth of Phoenix's character throughout from the first trial of Ace Attorney 3, and then you like consider the previous 2 games, how he's grown into like being such a good lawyer till now, up until like the final case. It was really amazing for Phoenix's character, and I think she works so well.
Yeah, definitely. And like if we're thinking about like points on what like makes masterminds and villains like really, really work, right? Like Dahlia, she has that emotional connection to Phoenix and definitely impacted his life quite a bit. There's also like the surrounding circumstances as well with the storyline behind the Fae clan, because something that gets revealed in case 5 is that Dahlia and her family is closely connected to Morgan, and like all of that, and it just like culminates into one big finale that really does seem like, you know, the end of the trilogy when it comes to the first 3 Ace Attorney games. And that climatic buildup of all the connections that are being made just made it close really, really well, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think what I love so much about the final case is that the groundwork was laid all the way back in the second trial of the second game, where you actually go to the Fae clan and you meet Morgan and realize that she's behind like one of the smaller cases from the second game. And then, you know, like at the end of that case that she says, "Oh, I'll be back," but she doesn't come back in the second game. You're just like, when she's coming back? When? Third game, here I am back. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like all the way back then, they had an idea of what they wanted to do.
And I do remember playing the second game. I was like super confused. And like as much as I do love case 4 of the second game, and I do think like obviously Matt Engard works really well as a villain, like I don't know, I felt like I was like, it was building up to something about Morgan and like the Fae clan. And in hindsight, like 2-4 felt really, well, honestly, the second game, all the cases felt kind of disconnected, to be perfectly honest.
But that's so true.
Yeah. There's a reason why I don't view the second game that favorably, but like I thought it was really building up to something, but it wasn't there. That's not to say, obviously, that case 4 of the second game was bad. I thought it was really, really good. Again, it's just like it felt really disconnected. But I guess it's a symptom of the game. Yeah.
I would definitely agree. Yeah, I'm also a huge fan of 2-4. 2-3 doesn't need to exist. We don't talk about that. We don't need to. We don't talk about that. we don't talk about that. Yeah, it's always the third cases, even in Danganronpa, bro. What is the curse? But yeah, I absolutely loved On Guard, just for again what it did for a character like Phoenix, where it was a great parallel to him in stuff like the Von Karmas, where at this point he's like the new hotshot lawyer, and he's never lost a case. He's got a perfect record. Von Karma from the last game had a perfect record, and look at where that got him. So I just really liked how they even added in a bad ending for the game, where you say that he is not guilty, and you keep your perfect record, but you never see Maya again. And that's such a dark ending. It's like, I love it. I love that. I wish they did that more for some of the other Ace Attorney games. I was a huge fan of it.
Yeah, it worked really, really well. And as you said, it connected to the themes of what the series has been building up to that point so far, right? Like, because like at that point, yeah, Phoenix Wright is a foil to the Von Karmas and to all the prosecutors with perfect records, because this is the dystopian Ace Attorney universe, I guess. But yeah, like, I will say, in the original DS version, there was typo, which sort of ruined the moment of that bad ending, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah. I think I remember that. Luckily, when I played it, my first time playing the trilogy was on the collection for the 3DS, so I don't think it had the typo. So I was luckily able to avoid that. But I think I saw of it later, and I was like, nah, there's no way. It's like,
yeah, there is.
It was so silly.
So yeah, but thankfully, like, we have the remasters and stuff that can fix things, and so yeah, that moment's definitely really, really hits hard. And again, this comes back to, you know, the masterminds and the villains like fitting in well with what the story has been building up to that point, whether it's like thematic connections, emotional connections. And I will say, like, both Matt and Guard and Dahlia, and also Von Karma as well, they just are such good, they just have a presence. Like, they're really, really threatening when they are feeling in danger, and it works with that sense of like threat and stakes that, you know, when you are going into these mystery games, like, serves really well to heighten the suspense.
Right. Yeah. I think what's really good is they're all. I'm explaining this badly, but they're all so good in each of their ways. Because you think Von Karma from the first game, he's the prosecutor who's never lost, the untouchable final boss. Second game, you have someone you're supposed to get a not guilty verdict for,
yes,
but they're the killer. It's like, they're the one you're supposed to be defending, and then you just have a witness who's supposed to be Dahlia Hawthorne, and like they're each in like 3 different positions, but Dahlia Hawthorne is supposed to be this innocent girl that could do no wrong, I would never hurt anybody, and then turns out, oh my gosh, she is out for blood.
She has like one of the highest kill counts, I think, in the series, which is kind of insane.
I think so,
when you think
something
about
like
it.
that. Yeah.
She just can't stop killing to save her life, I guess. Yeah, like, I don't know. I think what makes Dahlia stand out is like all the things that she has done in like lead up, because like, yeah, like, what, she's responsible for the death ultimately of like how many, like 6, 7 people or something like that? I don't even remember.
I lost count. I honestly lost count.
Yeah.
And she also failed some killings too. Like, she didn't even complete them all successfully.
That is true, yeah. And honestly, that is what made the climatic moment of Ace Attorney 3 really, really satisfying, is that, you know, Mia going up from the grave, just being like, you're not as good as you think you are. You're actually such a pitiable failure. And like, even though she's already dead at that point, like, that is her punishment, which I just think is like, it's super cathartic and works really, really well.
It was, yeah. And I love how they did that for Mia as a character as well. Despite dying in the first game, they kept bringing her back, allowing her to deal one final blow into Dahlia Hawthorne, which is interesting because like, she doesn't really come back much anymore after that. Yeah,
she's in the comatose state of trying to cope, I guess, with that. Yeah. I will say we are recording this currently, like, pretty recently since the announcement of the Ace Attorney Investigations games, and I am super excited for you to finally be able to play those. Like, I think, judging from our conversations so far, you'll really, really love those games.
Oh yeah, I forget exactly when they're dropping, but like the second those games drop, oh my gosh, it's on site. It is actually on site.
Yeah. I think it's like in September or something. And yeah, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Ace Attorney 1, and I can't get into Ace Attorney 2, I will say, I think Ace Attorney 2 as an individual game is just so good, and like has one of the best like villains and masterminds ever in the series. mainly because of their motivation. But I personally, I'm so excited, and we'll definitely be talking about that once like it gets released and you'll be able to finish it.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, like I will say, I mean, Von Karma's motivation was like perfectionist and like get a perfect record, which fits his character really, really well, right? I forgot what Matt Engard was actually. I can't remember on the top of my head.
He was kind of just a rich boy and was a star and was like, I'm the best. Everybody loves me, and they'll continue to love me once I become not guilty. I think he was also just trying to...
The best. No, sorry, just kidding.
The best. I'm sorry, you mean Eugene Winter.
Oh my... It'll take a while to get used to the new names. I'll just say that right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. There'll be a mod for it, don't worry. Anyways, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that because I think he was like a star and he killed like the person who could have taken his like spotlight or something. I think his whole motivation was he wanted to be like the center of attention all the time. Right.
Which I guess makes sense for like a fame-obsessed star, like something like that. And then Dahlia just like is out for blood, apparently. No. Well, I mean, a lot of her actions is just in response to trying to cover up for her previous actions, if you really, really think about it, right? Like, she did that jewel heist, which failed, by the way. And then she had to kill Valerie in order to, because Valerie was feeling super, super guilty about it and was about to, like, come clean. And because of that, Godot, I forgot his real name, was like, after that first case, Mia's first case, like was continuing to investigate, and that's how he got poisoned and tried to pass the bottle to Phoenix. And obviously Phoenix was like super excited, so that led her to try to, poison him, ended up poisoning the poisoning student. It just goes on, basically. Like,
yeah, I know, it goes absolutely on. It's insane. I think what I really like about, specifically in the Masterminds of Ace Attorney, but I feel like this could also go to like the other games, is the feeling of how untouchable they are, how invincible they feel. Like they're each one, again, for Von Karma, perfect record, never lost a case. Old guy, so he's been doing this for his whole life, never lost a case. Matt Engard, rich as heck, has all the resources in the world, all the spotlight, everybody loves him, untouchable. Dahlia has the cloak of innocence covering her, but also the fact that she's dead, so you can't even get her back. Haha, I'm dead, you can't catch me because I'm already dead. What are you gonna do? Put a dead person in jail? She's literally untouchable. Like, you can't. Right. But then
you just have to deal emotional damage to her.
Exactly. Exactly, dude.
Yeah. And yeah, I do agree that Ace Attorney does that really well, like making them feel like super threatening and super untouchable. And again, like this is something we've talked a lot about Ace Attorney villains, but these points that we've talked about can be applied to like other masterminds and villains as well, like their motivations, their connections, their threat level. Like, I know in Danganronpa, which is another iconic murder mystery series, there's a super iconic mastermind in the form of Junko, which I have some feelings about, but I am curious, what are your thoughts about the Danganronpa series masterminds?
Yeah, well, one might say too iconic for Junko.
Yeah.
I think in a series like Danganronpa, she works well because of just how off the wall she is. I think what Junko is absolutely unpredictable.
Right.
More than anything else. And I think for her specifically, it's a little more shock value than her as an actual mastermind. She feels more like a mascot as opposed to a character that's extremely threatening. She feels more like an idea of despair as opposed to being like her actual own character, besides just the fact that, haha, I'm wacky, I'm crazy, I'm insane, I kill people. I think she works for the series, but definitely isn't my favorite mastermind of all time.
I would agree, honestly, especially when it comes to Danganronpa 1. I will say, when I was first playing it, I was kind of underwhelmed by the reveal that Junko was the mastermind in Danganronpa 1. And I think I agree, like, a lot of the iconic status of it came a lot to the shock value and the memorability that came from the situation around it. Like, hey, the person that you thought was Junko that had died wasn't, and she is the real mastermind, all the way back from the first case. And unfortunately, like, as you say, like, she's not really much of a character. Like, mostly this is because we don't really get to know her that often, or like see how she really works in Danganronpa 1. Again, like, it's literally just that final bit that we actually get to like peer into the veil, so to speak. And I will say, like, I don't think the reveal or the end was bad in Danganronpa 1, but it definitely wasn't as compelling or as like impactful for her specifically as like a mastermind.
Right. I think, yeah, like I said earlier, it was a lot more of that kind of shock value and like a final obstacle to overcome for the characters so they can actually escape. I think what really got me most about the finale of Danganronpa, or at least the final case, even more so than just the mastermind, I guess just the setting.
Right.
Was because when you were in the school, you had no idea what's going on in the outside world. You kind of just figured, oh, let's escape and then we're good. You know?
Yep.
But then you find out, oh, it's bad out there too. In fact, it might be better in here.
Right.
Like, that was what made it a lot more scary, I guess. Not so much Junko herself, because she's kind of just, she doesn't take anything seriously. So it's like, it's kind of hard to take things seriously with her. But knowing that what's out there is just as bad, that's what really gets you.
Yeah. And again, even though like it says that, you know, Junko is the reason why this is happening, like, we don't really see, you know, that in action, or we don't really like, it's like that show don't tell sort of like motif, right? Like, we're told that she is responsible for plunging the world into despair, but we don't actually like see how she works or how she was able to do that or anything like that. So it's, again, like you mentioned, just the situation around it that made it really threatening, not necessarily her herself. And this is also why, like, when it comes to Danganronpa 2, I thought Junko worked a lot better in Danganronpa 2 than in Danganronpa 1, because in Danganronpa 2, we actually start to see how she was able to turn people to despair, mainly because, like, we are the ultimate despair, right?
Right, yeah. I also liked her more in 2. I think what was interesting was just, again, the shock value got us again, because it's like, oh, well, it can't be her because she already died. Right. And like, this is the second game, so we don't have to worry about her, but now we're healing all this stuff about Danganronpa 1. And then she comes back in the form of the AI Junko, which has a cell phone of herself, which is weird. It's like,
I will admit, that was super funny.
It's Danganronpa, bro. Like, you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree that she worked better in the second game for sure.
Yeah, because, I mean, when like the cast was like, you know, faced with this truly awful situation of, you know, them revealing themselves to used to be ultimate despair, and the cast from Danganronpa 1 saying that, you know, they need to sacrifice themselves or their memories in order to save the world. And you just hear Junko being like, do you really have to sacrifice yourself? What do you owe the world? Like, you just start to see how she was able to plunge people into despair, like, just to give up, to accept the easy way out, to just not care anymore. And that just made her so much more threatening, in my opinion. Like, and this is in greater context to, I think, a lot of the more emotional moments in Danganronpa 2, which I felt there was a lot of, with, you know, Hajime being completely in a depression after the reveal that he is Uzuru, and then his moment with Chiaki. Like, it just all added up to something that I think worked a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of it is just like, you see the manipulation from Junko a lot more, because she's like really trying hard to persuade. I guess there's more desperation, I guess, in Junko here, because she wants them to continue being ultimate despair and not be replaced. Right. And that's where the manipulation just kind of comes from, because as the AI, her goal is to just keep spreading despair, as the OG Junko would have wanted. And I like that, because you really get to see it on all the characters. I think it's a lot more impactful when, I like the first one's reveal where I was talking about how the world outside is just as bad, but technically the characters themselves are still quote unquote pure, right? They're not evil. They haven't done anything wrong yet. Like if they haven't killed anybody, but now you think like, oh, if I go back, I'm gonna turn into some monster, or I already am a monster, so how can I even be redeemed? Right. It's like, it's a lot more compelling, because it's like, oh, my life, what I thought was up to this point is not what I thought it was. Turns out I'm just a monster, a murderer. And going back to a life like that is terrifying, especially since it's you, where like the Danganronpa 1 characters, when they go out in the world, they join the Future Foundation, they can go and change things for the better. They're still untainted, but you being tainted and you didn't even know about it, that would freak me out. Like, that'd be insane.
Yeah, because like in Danganronpa 1, even though they're heading into huge unknowns, they still know about themselves, and they have the confidence in, you know, the fact that they won't change, even if the world sucks. Like, you're still you. In Danganronpa 2, the cast doesn't have that safety, which just really raises the stakes and made it a lot more compelling. And like, because they're ultimate despair, there's this connection with, you know, Junko being under their lead, and that adds like another dimension of just the dark situation that is currently going on, and the decisions and the dilemma that they face. It feels a lot more raw when it is put in Danganronpa 2 like that.
Right, because it directly impacts the characters as themselves, especially since some of them had like, they physically changed their body. Like Nagito took Junko's arm or something, and I think Fuyuhiko took her eyeball. It's like, that's nasty. Like, what? Oh my gosh. Yeah. A lot of shock value, I will say, in addition to all of that, as well. When it comes to like Danganronpa V3, I'll be completely honest. I do not think Tsumugi works as a mastermind. But I mean, I in general do not like the end of V3. But personally, like, I do not like Tsumugi as a mastermind in Danganronpa V3. I don't think she really works motivational wise, or like connection to the cast wise, or threat wise. Cause like in the scenario, I feel like the main reason why she's doing it is that it's her role, it's her job, which I don't find as compelling as like some of the other like reasons why they might do the things they do. Right, I would agree. Now I think I disagree with you on the fact that I actually do like the ending of Danganronpa V3. Fine. That's totally fine. Yeah. But it's one of the most like things that has divided people. Like you talk to anybody, they'll give you a different answer on the ending. But I do agree with you that I think Tsumugi is definitely just a means to an end, 100%. And I think the whole ultimate cosplayer thing is just an excuse to bring back all the old characters from the first two games, for like, oh look, it's those characters. Be like, I remember that guy. I remember Taro, the guy who died in the second game, like really fast. He had like 30 lines. Remember that guy? You guys remember him? Like. Yeah, Tsumugi is just kind of the final obstacle and the despair surrogate. If you wanted to say like the audience surrogate, what Kiba was, she's just the despair surrogate to like be the boss to overcome. Like discount Junko, honestly, in my opinion. She literally was discount. I mean, she tried to play herself off as Junko. Like, come on now. Okay, not gonna lie, that was super funny. So yeah, I do appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I've made my feelings known about the ending of V3, but I am curious to see like what your thoughts are on it, like overall. Yeah, I think because it's really hard to like dig deep because there's a lot of elements in the final trial. But why it's so dividing is the whole real or fiction about it, because what it's revealed to be in Danganronpa V3 is that it takes place in the real quote unquote world where people are brought in, like people from the streets are brought in, and they are brainwashed and wiped of all their personality and memories, and they are overwritten by these Team Danganronpa in the universe? Like Team Danganronpa is like the in-universe names. Yeah, something like that. And these people from Team Danganronpa create these characters and like write all their memories, and they basically shove that into these people's brains, and then that becomes the person. So all 16 characters, or however many students there are, they're not real. They were written by somebody in a studio, and then for some Danganronpa magic, that's like their character. Like they are that person, and it's like, am I real or am I fake kind of thing. And when that's revealed to be, oh, we're just overwritten people, we'll never be our original selves again, it like kind of traumatizes the characters again. It's very like the second Danganronpa, it's like very so much like existential. It's like, who am I? Am I just fiction created by somebody else to serve a purpose? Like that's what all the characters thought that they were. And it's revealed that in the past, like the first Danganronpa, the second Danganronpa, in this universe, they are fiction. I think there was like an interview where they said they take place in different universes, where Danganronpa 1 and 2 are in its own universe where that is canon, and then V3 is in a different canon where the first two games are actually just fiction.
Right. Very
but
meta.
I think a lot of people, extremely meta. It's really weird. Like it takes a long time to explain it. It's very confusing, but that's what meta things are. It just happens. But I personally did kind of like how the characters were basically battling the concept of Danganronpa itself. And although not a lot of people like it just for how like the meta-ness of it and how it treats its characters like little toys to throw away and just say, I'll just write it off as fiction, it doesn't matter. I can definitely see that side of it, but I do like the message of fiction can change reality and how they as fictional characters still are real, quote unquote, because they can impact what reality is. And I actually really like that. And I think what was interesting was when 2Q Games was founded by Kodaka, I think that was their main message, was that for their company, they were like, oh, fiction can change reality, which was the main message of Danganronpa V3. So I think they want to make stories that can impact reality. And if something impacts reality, then it has to be real. It's a whole thing. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm explaining it really badly.
It is really a lot to try to explain, but I will say I do like the message that fiction can, impact reality. I actually genuinely do like that. And I do ultimately really like, the message and everything. I just think the way that it was executed personally was really just removed a lot of the emotional impact that the previous chapters had. When you realize that it's all fiction, it was all scripted, it was, not real. Like, what does that mean for Kaido's entire character development, Maki's entire character development on those scenes? It just feels it loses a lot of meaning and resonance when that happens. And I feel like there could have probably been better ways to do that. But yeah, ultimately I do think the message is cool. I just don't think it was that executed that well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think one thing that I also like about it is how emotional it made me feel towards Kaede as a character, because she was honestly, I thought she was fine. I really liked Kaede, but she didn't really I didn't get super attached, obviously, because she died in the first chapter, which, by the way, best first chapter of any Danganronpa game.
Yes.
Without a doubt. V3's is insane. The protagonist switch was amazing. The whole marketing thing of having Kaede as the protagonist and then switching it for Shuichi. insane, absolutely amazing. I was hooked on the game just from that amazing trial. And then every consecutive trial was like, okay, all right, whatever. until the final few. But you know, the final trial made me so angry on Kaede's behalf, because you find out that not only was she like a fictional character, but she never knew. She died when she was innocent, and she should still be alive. And it's like, oh, she deserves so much better, man. Kaede really did deserve so much better.
Yeah, Kaede, I would agree with you. Kaede deserves a lot better, but the world of Danganronpa is cruel, and we can't have
truly,
nice things.
Yeah, so true.
But yeah, like, I think Danganronpa V3, like, there was a lot. I mean, I'm usually like very, very skeptical when it comes to like meta elements, so to speak, when it comes to mystery games, because like I personally find like, you know, you have to have like a set of assumptions going in to, you know, be able to like try to figure things out. And if they're like broken, it kind of like pulls the wool out of under you.
Yeah, that's fair. It has to take place in a universe with its own set of rules and whatnot.
Yeah.
I get that. And even though there are some disruptions when it comes to meta and stuff like Zero Escape, it is still in universe. It's just weird. Really weird in universe.
Let's talk about Zero Escape, specifically 999. Oblivion, if you're still watching for whatever reason, actually do turn it off right now. But
yeah, please. No, experience it for yourself, I beg.
I think 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. And the Zero Escape in general, like, probably has... I mean, it's not even in question. It's my favorite villain and / mastermind / whatever / the person ultimately responsible in any mystery game series. Like, are we just gonna say it? Are you gone, Oblivion? Okay, Akane Kurashiki. Who is Akane Kurashiki?
Oh my gosh, one of the best written like antagonists, because she's not even. She fills so many different roles: supporting heroine, antagonist, mastermind, villain,
love interest,
victim,
narrator,
like narrator, like mysterious voice from the beyond. Like she's everything, dude. She literally is everything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and what I find super fascinating and interesting about her is just there's so many different interpretations of her and her characters and actions, specifically in 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, because, excuse me, obviously, like, when you reach the end, you realize that when you're playing on the DS, which is the best way to play this game, the top screen is all just Junpei's experience currently going through the Nonary game. But the bottom screen, where all the narration happens, that's Akane from 9 years ago during the first Nonary game, and she is seeing all of that, and that is how she realizes she needs to like do the second Nonary game, the one that Junpei's in order to save herself. And so you have to ask, like, how much of it is real? How much of it was an act because it has to be that way? Like, there's so many different interpretations that it's super fascinating trying to like decipher.
I know. I absolutely love it. I love what you mentioned about the DS too. I love that when developers got creative with the DS and thematically used like the different screens for different things. And I was lucky enough to play it on the DS, so I had that experience going in.
You had the full experience where you also had to turn it upside down to do the Sudoku, right?
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because dude. For those, people should know. Or for those that only play the PC version, all the puzzle solving was on the bottom screen, aka young Akane sending the puzzle solutions to Junpei. And at the end, when Junpei needs to save her, you have to turn the DS upside down. And so now you're playing on the top screen, Junpei sending the puzzle information to young Akane. And it's just like so good how they like implemented that.
I know. It's because it's taking place in two different realities that are happening at the same time, and oh my gosh, the way that they implement the bad endings that lead up to the good. Oh my gosh. This game is so good. The bad endings where Akane always starts feeling sick, where she starts feeling feverish. It's like, oh my gosh, she's so hot. And then you find out why she was so hot. Oh my gosh. And then she eventually disappears in those endings. She always disappears in those endings. It's because 9 years ago, since you made the wrong path, like she dies.
Yeah.
It's like,
and like,
oh my gosh.
There's a contradiction, and so like she winks out of existence. She Thanos snapped. She got Thanos snapped, and it's like everything just ties together really, really well. And again, like one thing I really like about Akane's portrayal in 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors is that you don't know really like to what extent, you know, is her feelings for Junpei as strong as Junpei's feelings for her? Is she truly super terrified? Like when she went into door 3, when you become evil, choose a door 3 route, was her freak out like on an act, or was it genuine on the discovery of Snake's, aka X's body? Like there's just so many questions and so many interpretations of that it's like really, really interesting to try to figure out.
Right, and I think that's what I liked about the second game as well, is you get to, she's in the second game as well, and you get to see a lot more of the, I guess you could say, the mastermind side, or like the plotting side of Akane, where she's taking things a lot more seriously. The silly, fun-loving, sweet girl is gone, but now she's just like this very serious, old lady that takes things like very analytically. And it's been a minute since I've played the second game, so I can't remember any examples, but I just remember that reveal of it being Akane stuck so hard with me.
Yeah, she's like definitely like a lot more cold, so to speak, in Virtue / Reward. But it's interesting because in Virtue / Reward, you can argue that her goal is ultimately a lot more heroic and selfless. In the first game, like her actions is to ultimately, you know, save herself to ensure her own existence, and, you know, also get some revenge on the side. You know, if people have to die, you know, might as well. And while that motivation is definitely like sympathetic and understandable, it is ultimately a lot more selfish than, you know, her goal in Virtue / Reward, which is to save 6 billion people, to save the world, to save humanity. And yet in this game where she tries to do that, it's a lot more cold. And so that's just a very, very interesting dynamic between how she acts and what her motivations are.
Right. Yeah, I think what was really interesting about the first game is, like you said, interpretation, right? But you actually, in the first game, you never get to see that side of Akane ever. You never get to see the mastermind Akane. You can only just read between the lines. And something about that is so good. And it's also part of the reason why I still need to finish the third game. Because I got kind of bored of the third game. Some of the side characters were just kind of insufferable. I didn't like them. But, you know, maybe as the game goes on, it could get better. I was really only there for Akane, Junpei, Sigma, and Phi, honestly.
Okay, I'll just
when I was
say,
playing through it.
Carlos is like the best character ever. Oh my goodness! Like he's
I did like Carlos.
He's so funny. Oh my goodness, I love him.
Yeah, I think what was the Q? Was that the little kid's name?
Q.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. I remember I liked them a lot, but like all the other characters, I was like, bruh, what is this? Like,
did you like Diana?
I don't know. I don't. She was the one in
with
group
Sigma and Phi.
I don't remember her honestly that much. I can't. She was just like the nice girl, right? Where she was like, kind of like she felt like that.
Yeah.
Was she like the anxious one?
What was that?
I can't remember. She was like very anxious all the time.
Yeah. She
okay.
is.
I don't think I remember, because like I only made it like 30% of the way through the game, so I never saw like these characters fully blossom. I just remember it just didn't have the same hook where I immediately was interested like the first two games.
I wish I could talk about 0 times 11, but I can't because I finished it. But I will say things go super intense, let's just say. And so it'll be interesting if you ever do pick it back up again to see what your thoughts are on that. But onto like back to things that we can actually like discuss. Something that I find really interesting is that, I mean, there's always the question of like, how much did Akane really, really love Junpei or not, right? Like in 999, like that is the whole foundation of the story. It was like in a way, it could be interpreted as like some time transcendent like love story of someone like trying to save someone in the past. But there's also the question of like, you know, how much
manipulation.
Again, how much of it was it?
Yeah. Like was it just manipulation to keep yourself alive kind of thing?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think in the later games, it's sort of flipped around, because in the later games, because you played the intro to Zero Time's Dilemma, so you would know, like, Junpei is, like, very, very conflicted about Akane and what she has done. And this is also true in Virtue's Last Reward as well, especially the Another Time ending part. Like, Junpei is, like, you know, he's been through some really, really rough spots. With, you know, being put through a death game and then having all that ordeal. So he, like, really needs closure. But Akane, like, even though she, like, you know, uses not just him, but like a lot of people to achieve her goals, like she's still very, very much like, you know, love him. Like she very much is like, she, in a way, I think views Junpei as like her knight in shining armor. And when like, he's not supposed to, you know, he's supposed to be the hero. He's not supposed to, you know, not to hate her. Like she doesn't like comprehend that, honestly, which is really, really interesting.
I really like that, because again, when I was playing it, Junpei just felt like a shell of his former self, just kind of like a broken person, because he was like searching for her for what, several years or something, and just ended up never finding her. Was always searching, and where it led to him at Zero Time Dilemma, I was just like, man, Junpei, you're not looking too good there, buddy.
Yeah. It's super fascinating because like Akane, like, I think genuinely doesn't understand, because like she can see the infinite time, right? So like she has full confidence that, you know, they will end up together in some timeline at the end, and you know that makes things okay. But you know, Junpei, it's not okay. He's been through some rough things. It's like it's super. I really love the dynamic between Akane and Junpei, and that's also why like I think Akane really, really works well as a mastermind. That emotional connection, especially in the first two games, like works really, really well.
For sure, yeah. I think in terms of all like the masterminds, Akane probably has to be my favorite, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think concept-wise, just a character that sees the infinite timelines, being able to like you know, have that power and like manipulate things to change the world. I just think that as a concept is super, super fascinating as well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We can go on talking about 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, and Virtue's Last Reward, because there's a lot to unpack. But I think Akane like hits all our buttons. Like really, really good motivation, very strong emotional and thematic connections. Very, very interesting character-wise in terms of trying to dissect her. And in Virtue's Last Reward, like just the shock of seeing how cold she's become. And the things she does in the first two games are like very, very compelling and interesting as well. Like, I think it just hits all the buttons.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just because she has a very extremely strong motivation and reason as to why she's doing the things that she does. Right. Whereas stuff like Junko from Danganronpa is just because, haha, I'm crazy, I like despair. Yeah. That is my motivation. Haha, I am crazy, I like despair. That is it. Yes. That is all. It's a lot less compelling when compared to something like Akane.
Yeah. Like, Akane, I think, has one of my favorite motivations in all of the masterminds and villains that I've played. Like, even going back to the villains we think are super, super great, right? Like, you think Dahlia, you think even Damon Gant, sorry. Von Karma, Matt Ongar, like, they're all really, really strong villains, but I don't think any of them can match the motivation Akane had. And sometimes, I mean, this was something that I heard when discussing about like stories and mystery writings, but it's generally the motivation that really, really takes like a mastermind or a villain from like great to absolutely amazing and stellar. And I think for the Zero Escape series, for 999, it works really, really well.
Oh, I would agree too. Yeah, 100%. I think that it's that for sure what makes a good mastermind. But I also just like the way that they have a very personal stake in the main character's life.
Yes.
Which I guess you've played both Somnium Files games, the spiritual successor to Zero Escape. I'm curious to hear what you think about Saito. From the first game.
I think Saito is very, very interesting as a villain, and I guess as a mastermind. You don't really get to see much of him until like the end. Although, actually, I think you actually do because of the whole body swapping thing. It's been a while since I played AI.
Yeah.
But I do remember like the emotional moments in AI to be very, very strong and like really, really compelling. And like the connection between Saito and Date, I thought was, I think worked really, really well in service of that. And yeah, I think that's something, you've played AI too, right?
Yep, I have.
Yeah, I think that is something that made sort of the second game didn't really nail as much because like, who was Tokiko or something like that?
Tokiko.
Terror.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's not really much connection between them and the main characters. Like the most emotional resonant portion of AI2 was the Somnium of Ayame. I think that's her name. That Somnium was absolutely amazing. But like, outside of that, like it wasn't as emotionally resonant as like AI1, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Amame being like a secondary mastermind felt a bit underwhelming to me. I liked it, but it felt like it didn't really have much payoff, especially when it came to the True Ending's final battle, where it's just beat up a bunch of guys. Yeah, there's not like the final boss is already dead. It's like, hello, this is a pre-recorded message from Terror. I don't care about you anymore. You're irrelevant. You're dead. Shut up. Right. You're telling me to beat up all these random guys. Like, what? Why are these guys even here? Are they getting paid to do that? Like, I know they believe it's gonna take them to moksha, but like, really? Like, I don't know, man. I was not super crazy. I liked the side of the, I guess like the main characters a lot. That AI Somnium Files handles its main characters and their relationships to each other extremely well. But besides just the general ideas behind the villains, they didn't really have much of an impact, I guess. Like them as characters, it was just more of them as ideas. Like I honestly thought Tokiko was the most interesting one, but she's just, again, kind of a means to an end type character, which I think if she stayed in the plot a lot longer, she could have been a lot more interesting. But outside of, I think like did you ever play the weird ending where you type in the password and it takes you to that secret ending? I actually like that one a lot because it's like, oh, I achieved my goal of moksha because haha meta. Yep, true ending. You got the true ending, and now we're in a game and you can walk beyond the boundaries of her office. It's like, what are we doing now? What are we doing?
I also actually like the true ending, or I guess the secret ending of AI2 actually. Like, that was cool. But I will agree that like in terms of like the emotional moments in AI2, it was a lot weaker than AI1, and to the other games we talked about in general. Like, I do agree. Like, the motivation is obviously super important, but ideally, you also have like an emotional connection to the characters in some way, shape, or form. That is what made Von Karma so great. Obviously had a connection with Edgeworth, which in turn had a connection with Phoenix. That's why Dahlia was so great, because obviously there was the connection there, and you see her throughout the game building up that threat. That's why Akane is so great, because obviously, like, childhood friends constantly with you throughout the game, except for certain rooms, and then like that just made the reveal so much stronger. It's why I think Junko in Danganronpa 1 worked less well than in Danganronpa 2, because in Danganronpa 1, you don't really have any connections beforehand. You don't really see her. Danganronpa 2, Junko has the benefit of being a returning character, so there's already some sort of like establishment of her character. Like, the connection, ideally, good mysteries have things are connected, right? That's the basis of mysteries. Yeah.
Like all the like the best masterminds are deeply rooted into the main characters and their relationships to one another, which is why I much preferred Saito to Terror, Tokiko, a second game from Somnium 2, just because of how directly linked Saito was to Date as a character, and how that reflection goes on to stuff. Characters like Hitomi, to characters like Iris, to characters like Mizuki, to Aiba, and that's why I love Saito a lot more. Even though Saito was kind of, he's not weak. It's more just like I'm the bad guy. I kill because I have a mental illness, kind of, like I can't feel happiness. That's the only way I can feel happiness is by killing. It's like, okay, I mean that's cool as like a thing, but I felt more the connection that he had specifically with Date, literally swapping bodies with him. That and the entire body swapping part of the mystery, how you met Saito in multiple different people, like that was what made it matter more. It's like, why is, for example, for Iris, like why is Iris acting so crazy at this point? Why is Boss insane? Why is
what's going on in their Somniums to have all these crazy scenes? Like, what? It's crazy when you get like, I remember I had like the worst ending first possible. Annihilation. Annihilation. Yeah. I'm so happy I got Annihilation route first, because I think the game is designed in a way where you can play any route first and you'll think it's the best, but I gotta say, I think Annihilation is the best one to get first, because of just how crazy things go on in that route, and how badly you want to see how it finishes, because you don't get to finish it. You have to go back to it later. And so when you're playing all the other paths, it makes you confused, because you get into the Somnium in Iris's, and she's like insane. You're like, oh, she has to be like the killer, but it turns out it's Saito. And then when you go into her Somnium later, it's like Minecraft. It's like, what is this? Like, wait, I thought you were a murderer. Wait, it's not Minecraft. It's what's it called? I can't remember the name. Forgecraft or something.
Forge something. Yeah. Non-copyrighted Minecraft. Copyright free craft. Yeah, copyright free craft.
No, it's Shovel Forge. That's what it's called. It's Shovel Forge.
Yeah, that's right. I'm surprised you remember that. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I do agree. Like, even if Saito's motivation itself was pretty weak, just the impact he has on all the characters and the connections that result because of it just made it really, really strong and really cathartic when you're able to, like, take him down, because all these issues are going to be resolved when you're able to take them down. Like, all this suffering that has happened, it's finally done. And that moment of release just always feels so satisfying if there's a huge impact on the mastermind.
Right. I think another thing, I am actually curious to see if you caught on to this, but you remember how, like, somewhere in the middle of the game, they mentioned how if you stay in Somnium for too long, you switch bodies?
I did remember that, yes.
Something that I felt really dumb about was I literally kind of just, in that moment, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But I never took that as an option that the killer would do. I felt really stupid. I thought how it would happen, it was like it would happen later in the game where it's like, oh, we need to switch bodies for as a way to trick the killer somehow. But then I was like, oh wait, they got me with the body swap. Oh my gosh, I felt like such a doofus. Especially when they revealed that there was a second machine. It never crossed my mind that it was like, there's a second machine out there missing. I was like, that sucks. It just never crossed my mind that the killer might have it. I was like, I felt so stupid when I saw it, but I was like, I'm almost glad I didn't realize it, because the sheer the wow moment for me. Usually I can, put things together, but I felt really dumb while playing that game because I just never put it together. But, with the game with so many different paths, and I'm thinking of so many different things at once. Right. Sometimes the things that are right in front of your face, you just don't see.
Exactly. I don't remember what my thoughts were when I first played it. It's been so long. But I think I had an inkling of potentially what could happen when they mentioned that you can swap bodies if you are in the Somnium for too long. But nothing really. It was just okay, that was interesting. It could happen. That is probably relevant to the mystery.
Right.
Because why would they mention it otherwise, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things in mystery games. It's if they mention something and it seems kind of important, it's there for a reason. It's really important, yeah. And I think I figured it out when they revealed the second machine. I was like, oh, okay, they have a second machine. Body swapping is happening. That's why people's eyes are getting gouged out. Okay, it's all coming together. And I will say, when I saw the second machine and realized what was happening, that was like, oh my goodness, my mind is exploding. I'm getting it. I'm solving things. And yeah,
that's what's so great about mysteries, right? Just the feeling of everything coming together.
For sure. I think what is just so good is, even though sometimes you know what's coming, it's the in the moment discovery that just makes it so good. And I think a lot of it is just the presentability. It's stuff like I guess all the games that we've been playing, the music is phenomenal. They choose the perfect music at all times, whether it just be for the intensity of a situation, how emotional a situation is. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's really good, and definitely helps with raising the stakes and creating that really good atmosphere for everything, for sure. But yeah, we're coming up about 1 hour, but I do want to ask, because I'm very curious, since this is about masterminds and villains, what would you say are your top 3 favorite masterminds or villains of the games you've played?
Ooh, okay. Well, I think we both know number 1 is Akane, obviously. Yeah. there's no way. It's definitely Akane. Number 2, okay. That's tough. Yeah, I think it. That's hard. Oh my gosh, now you're making me think.
We can expand it to top 5 if we want, and just have a pool.
Okay. What's yours? I think I'm gonna.
Okay, I'll do mine first. So number 1, like you, is Akane Kurashiki. I really want to do a full-blown video essay on her. I know there's a bunch of them, either on text or on video format, but I think I would love to give my perspective on who is Akane Kurashiki a lot. So that will be number 1. I think number 2 would probably be Dahlia Hawthorne. And you have to remember, Ace Attorney was probably the first mystery series I ever played, and Dahlia Hawthorne left a huge impact on me and is really, really good. And so I really, really like that. For the reasons that we discussed, obviously, I'm not going to repeat them. And then number 3, unfortunately, I can't say who they actually are because of spoilers. But it is the main villain in Ace Attorney's Investigations 2. And that's all I'll say about that.
Okay. So, yeah. I think I might have to agree with the Dahlia number 2. She's just undoubtedly really good. I thought about Von Karma. I like Von Karma a lot, but he feels a bit classic. I don't know how to describe him. He's just such a class that you just can't go wrong with Von Karma, and how he still has impacts later down the line. I might put him at number 3. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
That's a tough.
I mean, what are the other like candidates you're considering?
I like Kristoff a lot.
We didn't talk about Apollo Justice that much, but
yeah, that's true. For now, we can dive deep into it maybe next time. But I like Kristoff a lot. He might. That's tough. Oh my gosh, this is such a hard question. I never actually considered who my top 5 are. That's such a hard one.
There's just so many good ones in the genre that we've played. Yeah.
It's not Juko. I'm telling you, it's not Juko. Juko's not up there. No.
Yeah. I think if I had to expand to like top 5, I think number 4 would be in. I don't know. Have you played Umineko or no? Or
I have not.
Umineko. No. Okay. It would be the ultimate mastermind of Umineko, or I guess the true identity of the mastermind in Umineko. I think that would be like my number 4. And then number 5. This one's really hard. I don't know if I have a number 5 to be perfectly honest. It'd probably be like either Von Karma or Kristoff. Probably one of the two, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with them for sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
But now that I'm hearing about that Investigations villain, oh boy, you get me excited for when those games come out.
Investigations too, and I'm sure you'll have an absolute blast because I think technically as a single game, it's probably like the best in the series, in my opinion.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I rate AA3 higher because. Not only because it is my favorite, but also because it is the culmination of like the previous 2 games and all the plot threads. But when it comes to like a self-contained individual game, I think AAI2 is the best. And so
okay, interesting.
Yeah. Look forward to that whenever it drops, and we'll have a podcast on that at some point. I'm so excited to talk about that. But yeah, thank you so much, Z's, for joining me as always. It's always so fun to talk about, our love of mystery games and to talk about these masterminds going into full spoiler mode. Finally, we are finally unleashed from the chains of spoilers.
Yes, no, it's my pleasure, dude. I have so much fun talking about this stuff because, again, not many other people, you don't get to see other people playing all these types of games. So whenever you meet somebody who does, it's like, let's talk about this, please.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, obviously, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you heeded the spoiler warning, and if you're here, you've played all the games that were mentioned at the beginning. If you're not, well, you're going to get a stern talking to later on. But anyways, yeah, hope you all have an amazing rest of the day. Do let us know down in the comments who your favorite... Okay, maybe not, because that could be spoilers. But
you could do spoilers and then make a bunch of spaces or something. I don't know, whatever you guys
enter
do.
a bunch, I guess, yeah. Like, be like, oh, this game spoilers, etc., etc. But yeah, do let us know what your thoughts are on the Masterminds, villains we talked about, any ones you like, with appropriate spoiler warnings, of course. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Z's. Hope you all have an amazing rest of the day, and see you all next time. Bye, everyone.